Hello, my name's Morel Benard, and I'm back with the story of Effie, Harry, and the dragons. I hope you're okay. The last time I said, but his claws were fast in Effie's sash and the little point at the back of Harry's Eton jacket. Then Effie took out the knife Harry had given her on her birthday. It had cost only 6pence to begin with, and she had had it a month, and it never could sharpen anything but slate pencils. But somehow she managed to make that knife cut her sash in front and crept out of it, leaving the dragon with only a green silk bow in one of his claws. That knife would never have cut Harry's jacket tail off, though. And when Effie had tried for some time, she saw that this was so and gave it up. But with her help, Harry managed to wriggle quietly out of his sleeves so that the dragon had only an Eton jacket in his other claw. Then the children crept on tiptoe to a crack in the rocks and got in. It was much too narrow for the dragon to get in also, so they stayed in there and waited to make faces at the dragon when he felt rested enough to sit up and begin to think about eating them. He was very angry indeed when they made faces at him and blew out fire and smoke at them. But they ran farther into the cave so that he could not reach them. And when he was tired of blowing, he went away. But they were afraid to come out of the cave. So they went farther in, and presently the cave opened out and grew bigger, and the floor was soft sand. And when they had come to the very end of the cave, there was a door, and on it was written, "Universal Tap Room, Private. No one allowed inside." So they opened the door at once just to peep in, and then they remembered what St. George had said. "We can't be worse off than we are," said Harry, "with a dragon waiting for us outside. Let's go in." Then they boldly stepped into the tap room and shut the door behind them. And now they were in a sort of room cut out of the solid rock, and all along one side of the room were taps. And all the taps were labelled with china labels like you see in Bart's. And as they could both read words of 2 syllables, or even 3 sometimes, they understood at once that they had gotten to the place where the weather is turned on from. There were 6 big taps labelled sunshine, wind, rain, snow, hail, and ice, and a lot of little ones labelled fair to moderate, showery, south breeze, nice growing weather for the crops, skating, good open weather, south wind, east wind, and so on. And the big tap labelled sunshine was turned full on. They could not see any sunshine. The cave was lighted by a skylight of blue glass. So they supposed the sunlight was pouring out by some other way, as it does with the tap that washes out the underneath parts of paint and sinks and kitchens. Then they saw that one side of the room was just a big looking glass, and when you looked in it, you could see everything that was going on in the world. And all at once too, which is not like most looking glasses, they saw the carts delivering the dead dragons at the county council offices, and they saw St. George asleep under the dragon-proof veil, And they saw their mother at home crying because her children had gone out in the dreadful, dangerous daylight, and she was afraid a dragon had eaten them. And they saw the whole of England like a great puzzle map, green in the fields part, and brown in the towns, and black in the places where they make coal and crockery and cutlery and chemicals. All over it, on the black parts, and on the brown, and on the green, there was a network of green dragons. And they could see that it was still broad daylight, and no dragons had gone to bed yet. Effie said, "Dragons do not like cold." And she tried to turn off the sunshine, but the tap was out of order, and that was why there had been so much hot weather, and why the dragons had been able to be hatched. So they left the sunshine tap alone, and they turned on the snow and left the tap full on while they went to look in the glass. There they saw the dragons running all sorts of ways, like ants if you are cruel enough to pour water into an ant heap, which of course you never are. And the snow fell more and more. Then Effie turned the rain tap quite full on, and presently the dragons began to wriggle less, and by some of them lay quite still. So the children knew the water had put out the fires inside them, and they were dead. So then they turned on the hail, only half on, for fear of breaking people's windows, and after a while there were no more dragons to be seen moving. Then the children knew that they were indeed the deliverers of their country. "They will put up a monument to us," said Harry, "as high as Nelson's. All the dragons are dead." "I hope the one that was waiting outside for us is dead," said Effie. "And about the monument, Harry, I'm not so sure. What can they do with such a lot of dead dragons? It would take years and years to bury them, and they could never be burnt now they are so soaking wet. I wish the rain would wash them off into the sea." But this did not happen, and the children began to feel that they had not been so frightfully clever after all. "I wonder what this old thing's for," said Harry. He had found a rusty old tap, which seemed as though it had not been used for ages. Its china label was quite coated over with dirt and cobwebs. When Effie had cleaned it with a bit of her skirt, for curiously enough both the children had come out without pocket handkerchiefs, she found the label said waste, W-A-S-T-E. "Let's turn it on," she said. "It might carry off the dragons." The tap was very stiff from not having been used for such a long time, but together they managed to turn it on, and then ran to the mirror to see what happened. Already a great round black hole had opened in the very middle of the map of England, and the sides of the map were tilting themselves up so that the rain ran down toward the hole. "Oh, hurrah, hurrah, hurrah!" cried Effie, and she hurried back to the taps and turned on everything that seemed wet and showery, good open weather, nice growing weather for the crops, and even south and southwest, because she had heard her father say that those winds brought rain. And now the floods of rain were pouring down on the country, and great sheets of water flowed toward the centre of the map, and cataracts of water poured into the great round hole in the middle of the map. and the dragons were being washed away and disappearing down the waste pipe in great green masses and scattered green shoals. Single dragons and dragons by the dozen, of all sizes, from the ones that carry off elephants down to the ones that get in your tea. Presently, there was not a dragon left. So then, they turned off the tap named Waste, and they half turned off the one labelled Sunshine. It was broken, so that they could not turn it off altogether. And they turned on fair to moderate and showery, and both taps stuck so that they could not be turned off, which accounts for our climate. How did they get home again? Is that your question? By the Snowdon Railway, of course. And what was the nation grateful? Were they? Well, the nation was very wet. And by the time the nation had gotten dry again, it was interested in the new invention for toasting muffins by electricity, and all the dragons were almost forgotten. Dragons do not seem so important when they are dead and gone. And you know, there never was a reward offered. And what did Father and Mother say when Effie and Harry got home? Well, my dear, that is the sort of silly question you children always will ask. However, just for this once, I don't mind telling you. Mother said, "Oh, my darlings, you're safe, you're safe. You naughty children, how could you be so disobedient? Go to bed at once." And their father, the doctor, said, "I wish I had known that you were going to do. I should have liked to preserve a specimen. I threw away the one I got out of Effie's eye. I intended to get a more perfect specimen. I did not anticipate this immediate extinction of the species." The professor said nothing, but he rubbed his hands. He had kept his specimen, the one the size of an earwig that he gave Harry half a crown for, and he has it to this very day. You must get him to show it to you. Go and see the professor. You are listening to Morel. And it is the end of the story. So I do hope you get to meet him so he can show you the specimen. This is the end of Effie, Harry, and the dragons. But don't worry, I've got another story for you, a new story for you. So you must listen to the next video. Listen to the next video. See you soon.